Welcome back to the deep dive. I want you
Yeah.
to just close your eyes for a second. Imagine you are standing on the edge of a wooden pier.
Okay.
The wind is absolutely howling. It's that whiting, wet wind you only really get in the North Atlantic.
Yeah, you can feel it in your bones.
You can. And the air, it doesn't just smell like air. It smells like salt spray, burning peat, wet earth, seaweed. It's rugged, it's isolated, and for a very, very specific subset of the population, it is quite literally the holiest ground on earth.
There's nowhere else like it.
We are, of course, heading to the Scottish island of Islay today.
Islay, the Queen of the Hebrides. I mean, it's a place where the geography and the industry are completely, utterly inseparable. You cannot have one without the other.
Exactly. And, usually when we talk about Islay, we're doing the standard factory tour. We talk about the peat, the smoke, the iodine.
The big, bold flavors everyone knows.
And don't worry, we are going to get into plenty of that today. But this deep dive is a little different. We aren't just looking at a drink. We are looking at a fascinating intersection of geography, high-stakes luxury branding, and family history. We are unpacking a series of whiskeys called the Kinship.
It is a powerful word, isn't it? Kinship. It implies family, bloodlines, connection.
It really does.
And that is exactly what we are analyzing today. On the surface, the Kinship is a collection of ultra-rare single cask whiskeys. We are talking about bottles that cost thousands of kroner, wrapped in these sort of rustic jute bags, telling the story of a specific place.
But that's just the surface.
That's just the surface. If you peel back the label, it is actually a strategic masterstroke.
That is the part that hooked me. It's not just, here is some expensive old whiskey. It serves a dual purpose. It acts as a tribute to the existing legendary distilleries of Islay, the giants we all know, like Lafrogue and Bowmore.
The old guard.
The old guard, exactly. But it is also a celebration of a new beginning. It marks the birth of the Ardnahoe distillery.
Precisely. It is a bridge. It connects the old guard to the new blood. And to guide us through this, we are pulling directly from the archives of Whisky.dk.
Which is a massive resource. I mean, the detail they have is incredible.
Literally and figuratively. They are Denmark's largest whiskey retailer, both online and physical, and their breakdown of the 2023 Kinship releases gives us the raw data we need to really, get under the skin of what's happening here.
So we have the numbers.
We have the raw numbers, the tasting notes, and the context.
So why does this matter to you, the listener? Maybe you aren't planning to drop 11,000 kroners on a bottle of whiskey today.
Most of us aren't, let's be honest.
Right. That's fine.
Yeah.
But this is a masterclass in provenance. It is about how family history, branding, and the physical soul of a place intersect to create value. It's about understanding how a new business enters a market that is just, it's dominated by legends.
It is. It is about establishing legitimacy through association. It is a very, very clever play.
Okay, let's unpack this. Let's start with the architects of this whole series. Who is actually behind the Kinship? Because you don't just wake up one day and decide to bottle a 33-year-old Kaelila.
You need access. You need connections.
You need deep access. And to understand that access, you have to understand the family name on the bottle. Hunter Laing. Hunter Laing & Co. is a family-owned firm. And in the world of Scotch whiskey, that is a detail that matters more than you might think.
Right, because so many of the big names, the ones we see on billboards, in airports, are owned by massive multinational conglomerates now.
Exactly. Diageo, Pernod Ricard, they own a huge chunk of the industry. But Hunter Laing is still a bloodline business, and the key figure here is Stuart Laing. His story is really the spine of this entire project.
I was reading about his background in the source material. He didn't just start this company yesterday as some kind of, passion project.
No, not at all. Stuart Laing is a veteran, a true veteran. He started his career way back, and crucially, he started it at Bruce Ladich.
Which is one of the iconic Islay distilleries. It is, and the source material emphasizes that this is where the seed was planted. Imagine being a young man in the 1960s or 70s working in those warehouses.
What would that have even been like?
It would have been raw. You are smelling the peat fires every day. You are dealing with the maritime climate, that damp, salt-laden air that seeps into everything, into the walls, into the wood of the casks. He fell in love with the island. He fell in love with the resilience of the people there.
It gets into your soul, I imagine.
It must. But for a long time, the Laings were independent bottlers, not distillers. And I think we need to clarify that distinction for anyone listening who might not be a total whiskey nerd.
Yeah, that's a good point. What is the difference?
It is the difference between being a chef and being a curator of a fine art gallery. A distiller is the chef. They make the whiskey. They mash the barley, they ferment it, distill it, and put it in casks. They create the raw art.
They're making the thing from scratch.
From scratch. An independent bottler, like Hunter Laing was for decades, buys casks from those distillers. They act as curators.
So they go into the warehouse and say, I'll take that one.
Exactly. That cask of Laphroaig from 1995 looks interesting. We'll buy that. They might age them further in their own warehouses, or they might bottle them under their own label, often at a different age or strength than the distillery would do officially. They find the hidden gems.
The weird ones.
The one-offs.
The one-offs, the things that the big distilleries might overlook or just blend away into their standard product.
So Stuart Laing spends a lifetime curating other people's art. He is building a reputation for having an incredible palate, for knowing where the good stuff is hidden.
And doing it very, very well, building a massive inventory of amazing casks. But there is always that lingering dream. If you love the art form enough, if you spend your life celebrating other people's work, eventually you want to pick up the brush yourself.
You want to make your own mark.
You want to move from bottling to distilling. You want to create your own legacy from the ground up.
And that leads us to the big shift, the transition from bottling to distilling. The milestone.
They built the Ardnahoe distillery, which opened relatively recently, right?
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of things.
In whiskey terms, it is an infant, a brand new baby. It opened in 2018. It became Islay's 9th distillery, and the significance of that cannot be overstated. For the Laing family, after generations in the business, this was the first distillery they actually owned. They put a shovel in the ground on Islay and built their home.
That is a huge risk, too. Building a distillery isn't cheap. We are talking millions and millions of pounds.
It is a massive investment, and here is the logistical problem. What people in the industry sometimes call the whiskey gap.
The whiskey gap.
Yeah, you build a distillery in 2018, the bills are coming in, you have staff, you have electricity, you have barley to buy, but whiskey takes years, sometimes decades to mature. You legally cannot even call it Scotch whiskey for 3 years and a day.
And you certainly can't sell a premium 18-year-old malt for, well, 18 years.
You can't. So you have a factory that costs a fortune to run, but no product to sell from that factory.
So you have a cash flow problem. A big one.
A huge one. You have nothing from your own stills to put on the shelf. So what do you do in the meantime? How do you build a brand for a distillery that doesn't have any mature whiskey yet? How do you get your name out there?
Ah, I see where you're going. This is where the Kinship comes in.
Connect the dots. The Kinship wasn't just a random product line. It was a strategic, commemorative bridge. The first releases of the Kinship came out while Ardnahoe was literally still a building site. It was a way of saying, we are coming. We respect the traditions of this island. We are part of this family.
So by bottling these incredible old whiskeys from the other Islay distilleries, Laphroaig, Bunnahabhain, Kello, Islay, they were essentially introducing themselves as peers.
Exactly. They are saying, look at the quality of casks we have access to. Look at how well we understand Islay whiskey. Trust us. We know what we're doing. And by the way, get ready for Ardnahoe.
It's brilliant. It leverages the reputation of the legends to bootstrap the reputation of the newcomer. It's like a new band releasing a cover album of all the classics to show you they have the chops before they release their own stuff.
That's a great analogy. And later releases, like the ones we're looking at today, marked the grand opening and established Ardnahoe's place in the family of Islay distilleries. It is brilliant strategy, but it is also, I think, deeply emotional.
Which brings us to the name itself, the Kinship.
It is a very, very deliberate choice of words.
When I hear kinship, I think of blood relatives. I think of a clan, a tribe.
And that is the vibe they're going for. The source material describes it as referring to the brotherhood of Islay distilleries. You have to remember, Islay is an island. It is isolated. It's not like you can just pop over to the next town for supplies.
It takes a long ferry ride or a pretty precarious flight to get there.
Exactly. The distilleries are competitors, yes. They all want you to buy their bottle. But there is a shared identity. They all rely on the same ferry to get their malt. They all deal with the same winter storms that knock out the power.
Right.
If the ferry can't sail, nobody gets their barley. If the power goes out on the island, it goes out for everyone. There is a community bond that supersedes corporate competition.
It's like siblings. We can fight each other, but if anyone else from the outside picks on us, or if the roof leaks, we stand together.
That is Islay in a nutshell. It is us against the world. And the Kinship bottles are meant to capture that spirit.
Now, there's also a specific event context for for these bottles. They aren't just released on a random Tuesday in November.
No, absolutely not. These are released specifically for face.
Face Eye. I always worry I'm butchering that
You've
pronunciation.
got it close enough. It is the annual Islay Festival of Music and Malt, the Islay Whiskey Festival.
The sources describe this as a pilgrimage.
It really is. For a whiskey lover, Phase I is Mecca. It's the Super Bowl. Thousands of people flock to this tiny island at the end of May. Every distillery has an open day. There are exclusive tasting events, live music, sealids, and you have people from all over the world, from Japan, from America, from Denmark, bonding over a dram.
It sounds like a chaotic, wonderful party.
It is. It's an incredible atmosphere. And crucially, it is an opportunity to buy exclusive bottles that you cannot get anywhere else at any other time. The Kinship is designed to be that ultimate souvenir, the ultimate festival bottling.
The text calls it a lasting memory.
And that's exactly it. Imagine you have traveled all the way to Islay. You are standing in a dunnage warehouse. It's cold. It smells of damp earth and angel's share. You taste something incredible straight from the cask. You want to take a piece of that experience home.
Of course.
The Kinship provides that. It captures the atmosphere of the festival in a bottle. When you open it 5 years later, you aren't just drinking whiskey, you are trying to transport yourself back to that pier, back to that moment.
Speaking of capturing the atmosphere, let's talk about the visual storytelling. Because looking at the descriptions of the packaging, they went all out to make this feel authentic.
They did, and it starts with the tactile element. Before you even see the bottle, the bottles come in jute bags.
Jute bags with drawstrings. That feels very agricultural, very rustic.
It's earthy elegance. Think about it. What is whiskey made from? It comes from barley. How does barley arrive at a distillery? In sacks. It references the traditional materials used in the region farming. Barley sacks, the bags they used to carry peat.
It's scratchy, it's textured, it's not a polished, velvet-lined box.
No, and that's the point. It grounds the luxury product in the soil of the island. It says, yes, this costs 8,000 kroners, but it comes from the dirt. It comes from hard work. It's real.
I love that contrast. High price, humble packaging, and then you pull the bottle out of the bag and you see the label.
The label art is fascinating. It uses this monoline-inspired abstract illustration style. It's very modern, very clean, but the subject matter is timeless.
And what are they depicting? It's not just a logo or a crest.
No, it is a landscape. The labels depict the view from Ardnahoe distillery itself.
Which is supposed to be spectacular.
It is one of the best views on the island, without question. It sits on the northeast coast, looking out over the Sound of Islay. From there, you can see the Paps of Jura, those famous conical mountains on the horizon. On a clear day, you can see the outlines of the islands of Colonsay and Mull.
So when you hold the bottle, you are literally looking at what the distiller sees every day when they go to work.
Exactly. And the illustrations also depict the whole process. The journey from barley growth to distillation to bottling. It anchors the whiskey firmly in its specific terroir. It's not just whiskey, it's a map of the view. It places Ardnahoe in the physical landscape of the Hebrides.
It sounds beautiful. But let's be honest, we are here for what is inside the bottle. Let's get into the technical specifications. There is a lot of jargon in the source material from Whisky.dk. Single cask strength. No chill filtration, natural color.
To the average drinker, those might just look like buzzwords on a label, but to the enthusiast, to the collector, those are the holy trinity of quality.
Okay, let's break it down then. What does single cask actually mean for the flavor in my glass?
It means uniqueness. It means singularity. Most whiskey you buy, the standard stuff on the shelf, is a blend of hundreds, sometimes thousands of casks, all vatted together. The master blender's job is to make sure every single bottle of the standard 10-year-old tastes exactly the same, year after year after year.
Consistency is the goal.
For standard releases, yes. But single cask is a snapshot. It is one barrel. It has its own personality. Maybe this barrel sat next to a damp wall in the warehouse for 30 years. Maybe the wood from this particular American oak tree was slightly more porous. It has quirks, it has flaws, it has brilliance. Once that barrel is empty, that specific flavor profile is gone forever.
So it's fleeting. It's a limited edition by its very nature.
It is singular. You can't recreate it. And then you have cask strength.
That means they don't add water, right?
Correct. Most whiskey is diluted with water before bottling to bring it down to a standard 40% or 43% ABV. This does two things. It makes it more approachable for the average palate, and it stretches the volume. You get more bottles out of a cask.
It's more profitable.
It's more profitable. Cask strength is undiluted, You are tasting exactly what came out of the wood. It is intense, it is oily, it's viscous, and it carries flavor much, much better than watered-down whiskey. It's the purest expression of the distillery and the cask.
And the third one, natural color.
You might be surprised to learn that many, many whiskeys have caramel coloring, the additive E150 added to them,
Why would they do that?
to make them look darker and more consistent on the shelf. People often associate dark color with age and quality, which isn't always true. Natural color means they don't do that. If the whiskey is pale gold, that's because that's the color the wood gave it. If it's dark amber, that's the wood too. It is pure Islay, as the text says. No tricks, nothing hidden.
Now, we mentioned Stuart Laing earlier, but there's another name associated with the curation of this series, a name that looms very large over Islay,
Oh yes.
Jim McEwen.
The word legend gets thrown around a lot in sports and music, but in the world of whiskey, Jim McEwen is a bona fide living legend. He started as a cooper making barrels by hand at Bowmore at the age of 15. He worked his way up through every job at the distillery. He later went on to revitalize Bruichladdich, turning it from a mothballed distillery into one of the most innovative in the world. He is an iconic figure.
And he helped select these casks for the Kinship.
His fingerprints are all over this. He was heavily involved in the selection process. When Jim McEwen picks a cask, he is looking for specific things: maritime notes, deep complexity, and that perfect balance of smoke, fruit, and oak. He knows these warehouses on Islay better than anyone alive. Having his name on it is a seal of ultimate quality.
And he is picking some seriously old whiskey here. The range focuses on 18, 25, 27, 30, even 33 years old.
And that's the archive aspect we talked about. These are whiskeys that usually wouldn't reach the public as single casks. In the normal course of business, these incredibly old, precious casks are used by the teaspoon to add depth and complexity to very expensive blended whiskeys.
So they'd be a tiny component of a larger product.
Exactly. To find a single cask of 33-year-old Cale Islay bottled on its own, that is incredibly rare. These are archives of history. You are literally drinking history.
Okay, here is where it gets really interesting for me. I want to open the virtual cabinet. We have the list of the 2023 releases from Whisky.dk. I want to go through them because this is where you really see the diversity of the series. It's not just one note.
Let's do it. This is the fun part.
First up, let's grab bottle number 1. This is the Ardnahoe 33-year-old.
A giant, a gentle giant.
It is listed at roughly 8,399 Danish kroner. It is 48.8% ABV from a refill bourbon hogshead. But the tasting notes, they mention pineapple and lime, red cherries.
Right, and that might surprise people who expect any whiskey from Islay to just taste like a bonfire.
Exactly. Ardnahoe is often the exception to the Islay's rule, right?
It is. Historically, Ardnahoe is the unpeated Islay malt. Although they do make peated whiskey now, their classic core style is unpeated. This allows the fruity character of the spirit itself to shine. But there is some incredible chemistry at play here over 33 years.
Oh, lay some science on us. What's going on in that cask?
It's a process called esterification. When whiskey sits in a cask for that long, the acids and alcohols in the spirit slowly interact with each other and with compounds from the wood to form new molecules called esters.
And esters are?
Esters are what create fruity and floral aromas. The ester that smells like pineapple is ethyl butyrate. The one for pear is isoamyl acetate. Over 33 years, in a relatively inactive cask like a refill bourbon hogshead, these esters have time to develop without being overwhelmed by wood tannins.
So 33 years in a gentle cask literally turns the spirit tropical.
It can, yes. You get these incredible tropical notes: pineapple, lime, red cherries. You still get sea salt, of course, because the warehouse is right by the ocean and that salty air permeates the wood over the decades. But the key takeaway here is elegance. It is fruitiness over power. It's a sophisticated, complex dram that defies the Islay stereotype.
Okay, moving down the shelf. Bottle number 2. The Cale Islay 33-year-old.
The maritime classic.
Price is similar, around 8,199 kroner. A little lower in strength, 44.5% ABV. Now, Cale Islay is usually peated. It's the workhorse of Islay. Makes a huge amount of peated spirit for blends.
It's the smoky backbone of Johnnie Walker Black Label, for instance.
Right. But the notes for this one describe softer peat smoke and worn leather. How does fierce smoke become worn leather?
This is a perfect example of what time does to peat. When you distill a peated whiskey, it is fierce. It contains chemical compounds called phenols, things like guaiacol, which is smoky, and chrysol, which is medicinal. In a young whiskey, they are sharp, aggressive, in your face.
Like biting into a piece of charcoal.
Right. But over 33 years in an oak cask, a few things happen. The sharpest, most volatile phenols slowly evaporate. That's part of the angel share. The remaining phenols break down, oxidize, and recombine with other elements in the whiskey. The fire turns into embers. The sharp, acrid smoke mellows into something savory, earthy, and complex.
Worn leather is such an evocative description.
It is, isn't it? It implies comfort. It implies history, like a favorite old armchair. The tasting notes also mention seaweed, fresh oysters, salted breeze. It is like standing on a pier in an old salt-stained leather jacket. It's savory, not sweet. It's a mood in a glass.
I love that image. Now, for those who want the smoke, let's look at bottle number 3, the Lafroig 25-year-old.
Now we are talking heavy hitters. This is the big one for peat lovers.
This one is pricey, roughly 11,599 kroner. And get this, only 332 bottles exist for the entire world.
Extremely limited. That's a tiny, tiny outturn.
And the ABV is higher again, 54.2%. That is pretty high for a 25-year-old, isn't it?
It is very healthy strength. Usually the angels share the evaporation of alcohol and water through the wood drops the ABV significantly over 25 years. This means the cask must have been incredibly tight, very well made, and probably sat in a cool, damp part of the warehouse.
The profile says, sooty peat smoke, olives, and salt water. That sounds like classic full-on Lafroig. But then honeysuckle and mandarin.
That is the magic of old Lafroig. It is a Lafroig paradox. Young Lafroig is famous, or infamous, for being brutally medicinal iodine, bandages, antiseptic, tar. It's a love-it-or-hate-it whiskey.
Absolutely.
But old Lafroig, after 25 years, develops this incredible hidden fruitiness.
Where does that come from? Is it the same ester thing?
It's a combination of that and the interaction of the specific Lafroig spirit with the American oak over decades. The text describes the texture as silk soft, despite the high strength. So you get that punch of soot and olives, that is classic Lafroig, but it is wrapped in this delicate, almost beautiful layer of citrus and flowers. It is a paradox in a glass. It's a brute in a tuxedo.
Wow. That sounds incredible. Okay, brace yourself for bottle number 4. The Bruichladdich 18-year-old.
The powerhouse.
I'm looking at the specs here. 61.5% ABV.
Wow.
That is massive.
That is rocket fuel. That is serious, serious whiskey.
It is around 4,799 kroner, so it's the most accessible of the range. The profile is spicy and rich. Black pepper, candied apples, nutmeg, French oak.
This is a younger whiskey compared to the others, 18 years versus 33. That explains the high alcohol content. It simply hasn't had as much time to evaporate down. This is going to be an intense, visceral experience.
It sounds like a winter warmer, something you sip by the fire.
Absolutely. And Bruichladdich uses these tall, narrow-necked stills. Tall stills usually create a very floral, elegant, delicate spirit because only the lightest alcohol vapors can make it all the way to the top. But at this strength, you are getting the full, unadulterated force of the wood and the alcohol. The notes mention French oak, which will give it those spicy, peppery notes. You would almost certainly want to add a drop of water to this one.
Right, to tame the beast a little bit, to unlock the flavors hidden behind the alcohol.
Exactly. A few drops of water will cause a chemical reaction. It'll release the oils and unlock a whole new range of aromas and tastes.
Now, bottle number 5 threw me for a loop when I was reading the list. It is a Highland Park 27-year-old.
The outsider, the plot twist.
Wait a minute. Highland Park is on Orkney, not Islay. That's hundreds of miles north, a completely different set of islands. We were talking about the Kinship of Islay. What is this doing here?
It is a crucial distinction and a great question. But remember the core philosophy. The Kinship pays tribute to the Scottish whiskey community, with Islay at its heart. It's about brotherhood. And historically, there is a connection. Orkney is another windswept, peat-rich island.
But it's different peat, right? I've heard that.
Very, very different peat, and that's the key. Islay peat is composed of decomposed trees, seaweed, and moss, giving it that classic medicinal and salty character. Orkney peat is composed almost entirely of heather. It's woodless, it burns differently, it smells differently, it tastes differently.
So it's the extended family coming to the reunion.
That's the perfect way to put it. It's the cousin from the north. And Highland Park is one of the greatest distilleries in the world. This one is 52.5% ABV. The notes mention baked pears and heather honey.
Heather honey is the classic Orkney signature, isn't it?
It is. If you taste that distinct, aromatic, slightly floral smoke and heather honey in a blind tasting, you guess Highland Park. It also mentions passion fruit. Again, that tropical note coming through with age. It serves as a beautiful counterpoint to the heavy Islay smoke. It shows the breadth and diversity of Scottish Island whiskey.
And finally, bottle number 6. The Bowmore 27-year-old. Now, the source lists this as a Face Isle 2017 release, so it's a bit of an archive piece itself compared to 2023's, but it's part of the collection being highlighted by the source.
Right, but it fits perfectly into the narrative of what the Kinship is all about.
It is around 10,999 kroner, but the cask is different. All the others we discussed were refill bourbon hogsheads. This one says sherry cask.
Ah, there it is. That's a game changer.
What's the difference in flavor profile between a bourbon cask and a sherry cask?
A huge difference. Bourbon casks are always American oak and have held bourbon whiskey. They give flavors of vanilla, coconut, caramel, light orchard fruits like apple and pear. Sherry casks, which previously held Spanish sherry wine, are often made of European oak. They give dark, rich flavors. Raisins, figs, Christmas cake, chocolate, coffee, and spices like cinnamon and clove.
And Bowmore is famous for how well it spear and handles sherry casks, right?
Bowmore and sherry is a match made in heaven. Bowmore has this medium level of peat smoke with beautiful floral and fruity notes behind it. When you combine that with the rich, dried fruit character of the sherry cask, it creates this incredibly luxurious dark profile. Think dark chocolate with sea salt flakes, a touch of cigar smoke, and stewed plums.
So we have a huge range here. We have unpeated tropical fruit, soft leather smoke, medicinal soot with flowers, high-octane spice, floral honey, and rich, dark sherry fruit. It really is a complete spectrum of flavors.
It is a curated journey through Scottish Island whiskey. It shows that Islay whiskey isn't just one flavor, it is a canvas with many different colors.
So we know what they taste like, in theory. But where do we actually find these bottles? We mentioned our source, Whisky.dk.
Right. And it is worth taking a moment to contextualize the source. Whisky.dk isn't just some anonymous website algorithm shipping bottles from a warehouse in the middle of nowhere. It is a physical powerhouse located in Vestruprud near Kolding, Denmark.
I looked up some photos of the place. It looks massive, like a library for whiskey.
It is 500 square meters of showroom, thousands and thousands of bottles. It's a destination.
The founders, Ulrik Bertelsen and Henrik Olsen, started this as a small online business in 2012, and now they are winning Gazelle prizes.
That Gazelle status is important. It is a prestigious Danish business award for high-growth companies. It means they are consistently doubling their turnover. It shows that there is a massive appetite for this kind of high-quality, rare spirit. They have become a destination for enthusiasts. They host master classes, tastings. It is the kind of specialist retailer where you can find these Kinship bottles because they have the reputation and the connections to get them.
And that leads to the investment perspective. We have tossed around some big numbers today. 4,000 kroner, 8,000, 11,000 kroner. Why? Why does fermented barley water in a glass bottle cost this much?
It is the ultimate question of whiskey for collectors. When you look at a series like the Kinship, you have to check the boxes that collectors and investors look for. Is it rare?
Yes, often under 300 bottles globally.
Tick. Is it from a reputable producer?
Yes, Hunter Laing, curated by Jim McEwen.
Tick. Is the liquid itself distinct and high quality?
Yes, single cask, high age, cask strength, natural color.
Tick. Is there a story? Yes, the birth of Ardnahoe, the Kinship of Islay. It ticks all the boxes.
So people are buying these not just to drink, but to hold? As an asset.
Ideally, whiskey is for drinking. That's my personal philosophy. It's made to be enjoyed. But let's be realistic. At this price point, these are assets. They represent liquid history.
Liquid history. I like that.
Think about it. That 33-year-old Kale Islay was distilled in 1990. The Berlin Wall had just come down. The internet as we know it barely existed. That liquid has been sitting quietly in a dark, damp warehouse on Islay, breathing in the sea air, while the entire world changed completely outside. You can't replicate that. You can't fake time. Once that liquid is gone, it is gone forever. That absolute scarcity is what drives the value.
It is exclusivity and provenance. The story is as valuable as the liquid.
Exactly. It is owning a piece of the past.
So what does this all mean? We have looked at the family history, the label art, the liquid chemistry, and the market context.
If we synthesize this whole thing, the Kinship is so much more than just a series of expensive bottles. It is a bridge. It connects the old guard of Islay Lafargue, Bowmore, Kale Islay with the new blood, Ardnahoe. It validates the new distillery by placing it in the context of the absolute masters of the craft.
It honors the past to build the future.
Beautifully put. It says, we belong here. We are part of this family.
I want to leave the listener with a final thought on all this. When we talk about whiskey, we so often talk about parts per million of phenol or alcohol percentage or the type of wood grain. It can feel like a chemistry class.
It can, yeah. Very technical.
But the Kinship argues that whiskey making isn't actually about chemistry. It is about relationships. It is about the kinship between the wood and the spirit, the kinship between the land and the sea, and the kinship between the families who've kept these fires burning for generations on a small, rainy island.
That is a powerful idea. It's a much more romantic way of looking at it, but probably more true.
I think so. And think about it like this. If you pour a glass of that 33-year-old dram, you are tasting sunlight that fell on barley fields 3 decades ago. You are tasting the specific character of the Islay air from a different era. You aren't just drinking a beverage. Are you, in a way, consuming time itself?
I think you are. You're drinking a memory.
And on that note, I think I need to go check the deep end of the shelf at the local shop. You might find a story worth reading in a bottle. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
Excellent.